Excellent. Welcome, everyone. My name is Lindsay Smith. I am the food educator here for the Hanover Consumer Cooperative Society at our Co-op Learning Center. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a young female. I'm wearing a co-op black shirt which says green co-op in neon, and I'm very excited to be here. Today, we're going to be doing a quick class in salsas and kind of the different varieties of salsas that you can make. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is there's a lot of confusion sometimes about a Pico De Gallo versus a salsa, and they're very similar. Pico De Gallos tend to be something that are chunkier and more like a salad. Okay. Salsas tend to be soupier. There tends to be a blender or food processor involved somewhere in making a salsa, whereas a Pico de Gallo is really chopped up, chunky vegetables, and you can distinguish all the different ingredients in them. Okay, that's the big difference. Salsas can be raw, they can be cooked, they can come from fresh vegetables, they can come from canned vegetables, and they can come in all flavors and different varieties. So today I'm going to show you 3 different types of salsa. Well, I'm going to do 2 different salsas and 1 Pico de Gallo and kind of show you a range of options. So what I want to start with, because this first one we're going to I'm going to start with a Salsa Verde. So it means green salsa. And this one's going to be a roasted Salsa Verde. So I'm going to roast my vegetables under the broiler first. All right. So this is the cooking process in this particular salsa I'm going to do first. And it's very simple. I'm going to switch to my cutting. Actually, before I do that, my Salsa Verde, one of the main base ingredients is a tomatillo. Okay, tomatillos are really kind of cool. They're not green tomatoes. So they look like tomatoes, but they're not a green tomato. They are in the gooseberry family, and they have this kind of funny papery skin all around them. So here's one up close. And if you see this papery skin, and sometimes it's really evident, this one is a fairly tight skin. So you want to peel that away. The fruit is underneath, okay? And we don't eat this papery skin. So in order to prepare your tomatillos, you need to take that papery skin off. I just pull it, I twist it. Now, if you'll notice, if you buy them, the resulting, I think it's actually a fruit, is sticky. So, and sometimes there's dirt gets trapped under there. There's a lot of, so what you really want to do is make sure that the next step in prepping your tomatillos is to wash them. Now you are able to buy these canned. We do have them, I believe they're in the international aisle. Now, the next step I'm going to do for my tomatillos, I want to roast these. I don't want to roast it whole. I want to create more surface area. So all I'm going to do is cut them in half. And if you look, you'll see they look very different than a tomato, and it's a very solid flesh versus the inside of a tomato, which has a lot more juice in it. So all I'm going to do for all my tomatillos here is I'm just going to slice them in half. If I see something like a brown spot like that, I'm just going to cut that away. The rest of the fruit I'm going to call it fruit, is fine because they are the gooseberry family. And I have found that these are, at least for me, the one thing in my garden that the deer do not eat. They eat everything else. But so I'm going to take these. I have a baking sheet for my Salsa Verde, and I'm just going to put them right on my baking sheet. I also, for this particular salsa, because we still have them in season, I'm going to use some garlic scapes. You can use garlic scapes. They taste just like garlic. Okay, they're a little bit milder than the garlic from the bulb, like this. This is the flower of the garlic plant. They're available right now. It's just, they're very seasonal. And a lot of times I blend them up and chop them up. So I love charring them. They're a great way to add mild garlic flavor. If not, for most salsas, I would throw on this baking sheet maybe a couple cloves of garlic. You can peel them or not, depending on what you have. You'll eventually want to take the peels off of them if you don't peel them. I'll throw a couple on here right now. Charring and broiling garlic makes it sweeter. For this particular salsa, I want to add some heat. So I'm going to throw in, I have a couple serrano peppers here. Use whatever peppers you like. I highly recommend you using peppers, no matter what. And then, you know, one way to make peppers more palatable is to take the seeds out. So I'm going to do that ahead of time. It just makes it a little bit easier. So I'm going to go to my cutting board here. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off the tip. I'm going to slice these down the middle. If you're working with a lot of peppers, you may want to wear gloves because the casein, it will get on the oils from the skin, sticks to your fingers, and even though you wash your hands with soap and water, it will be there several hours later. The inside, the ribs here is where a lot of the heat is stored. And so if you're sensitive to heat or just want to go lightly, take that out. So I love a thin-edged spoon. This is just a cheap spoon. I have it in my drawer. I mark it with a piece of duct tape. And then I just use that to pop all these seeds and ribs out. And I just have a little compost bag right here that I'm going to just scrape those into. And I'm not too worried because I'm going to be eating this salsa. I like things spicy, but you know, if you want a less, serranos are a little bit higher on the Scoville scale. I don't know what their exact Scoville heat unit is, but if you want one that's a little less, you could use jalapenos. You could use poblanos. Poblanos are great for salsa verde. They're really nice and big and meaty. You could also use like the green Anaheims. Those all have less heat than a serrano pepper. If you want more heat, use a Scotch bonnet. Some people really like to go for the ghost peppers. I'm not a big fan. I think they have too much heat. So I have these guys. If there's still seeds stuck in them, you can always rinse them out. It'll take them a little longer to roast because they are wet. Maybe I'll use my towel here, dry them off a little bit. And I'm going to just throw those onto my roasting sheet. The last thing I want for this salsa is an onion. And again, I want to roast it. So I'm just going to take, we've got some nice local yellow onions here. Whatever onions you have are fine. And I'm going to, I need to sharpen my knife. I'm just going to take I'm going to tip and tail it. And I'm going to take the skin off. So I'm going to cut it in half, take this papery skin off. Sometimes it's hard to get off, so I just take the whole first layer on both of these. And again, I want a little bit more surface area. The reason I'm putting these under the broiler is to get that beautiful, tasty char. My cutting board off here. And so I'm going to create a little bit more surface area. I'm going to chop this onion up a little bit. Just a rough chop. Now, everything is on my baking sheet right here. Okay. Now to make them roast a little bit better, I'm spread them out, give them a little room, but also I need to add a little oil. So I'm going to use some safflower oil, a good cooking oil. Just a little drizzle. I'm also going to go ahead and salt everything. So I'm going to just take a good sprinkling. I use kosher salt. That looks like a lot of salt. I promise you it's not. And then I'm just going to kind of toss everything so they get coated in that oil and that salt. The oil in this case is to increase the surface temperature of the fruits and the vegetables to make it roast better, okay? Do not use extra virgin olive oil. That is a finishing oil. It is not good for cooking with. We can talk about that more. All right, so I've got everything on my sheet. I'm gonna wash my hands really quickly, and we're gonna get this in the oven. So. You're going to find that in all three of these that I'm making, the ingredients are very, very similar. I always have a couple of alliums. I don't always use garlic. I like garlic in the roasted salsas or cooked salsas, not as much in my raw ones, depending what I'm making. So I always have heat sources. So this is going to go in my broiler, and we're just going to kind of keep checking on it. And as things finish, we'll take them off the sheet, and things that take longer, we'll just put back under the broiler. All right. So while that one's going, I'm going to switch gears just slightly, and I'm going to get a different kind of salsa together, and I'm going to just do a red salsa. This one I'm going to blend first and then cook it, okay? So what does that mean? I'm going to get my blender, and I'm going to start with canned tomatoes. It is tomato season. They are starting to come in. So we have beautiful access to some beautiful tomatoes, which make really good for, to me, Pico De Gallo. Also, you can do for this, the roasted under the broiler, you can do the same thing with tomatoes instead of tomatillos. So again, all these are kind of interchangeable, but I just want to show you a different approach. And I also do this exact same approach with the Salsa Verde. And this is a Salsa Roja, so red salsa, but I will switch these techniques for each one of them. There's no really, one's not better than the other. So this one, I wanted to show you, I can start with canned tomatoes, and I went ahead and bought ones that have, let me see if I have medium green chilies in this. So I don't want to buy canned tomatoes that have like basil, you know, they've got Italian flavored ones, but sometimes it's nice when the chili's already in it. Just remember that you've done that, so you don't add more chili. Or I actually made a minestrone soup last week with some roasted tomatoes that had jalapenos in it. And I love the soup, but whenever I eat it, I forget that there's some spice to it. Anyways, we're just gonna empty that can. These were diced. You can use whole diced. I'm already blending them up, so to me, it doesn't matter that they have already started that process. Now, again, I've already got chilies in there. Don't need to add any more. I'm gonna go ahead and add in an onion. So again, I've got my onion here. I start my usual way, and I cut off the stem end. Here, I don't normally cut off the root end, but because I'm not dicing it up, I'll cut off the root end. I'm going to just cut it in half. We're going to get all this papery skin off, and I just want to make sure, I like to keep track of it and make sure I don't get any into my food. And if any of the onion looks like that's a little off colored, I don't know if you can see that. I'm just going to take this little off colored piece away. Same thing here. Usually that means that they froze or something like that, which can happen as in refrigerators. I just froze a whole head of lettuce the other day. My refrigerator was nice, it was working well. All right. And then again, I'm putting these into a blender, so I don't need to do a lot of knife skill, heavy chopping. I'm going to give them a quick start. So I have my tomatoes, my onions. Okay. I'm going to throw in some garlic, and this is raw garlic, but I'm just going to cut the tops off there. I am going to peel this. So we're going to pop The skins come right off. Garlic's already practically chopped up for me. And then for this one, I'm gonna throw in, move my camera up just a little bit. Okay. And so here it is. I'm gonna add some cilantro to this particular batch right away. Often I like to save the herbs for the end, and you can. I'm gonna just throw in a little bit. The stems are edible, and because I'm blending them up, they should blend away. So I have that in my blender. And so I am going to just, let me move a couple things around here. Put my lid on my blender. Here. And I'm just gonna blend this up really quickly. And I'm gonna go ahead and mute my sound really quick because this is just gonna be loud. So let me hit mute. One thing you might notice is that I often give my blenders a little shake. I like to help things along. That didn't take very long for this to blend up because I don't need to blend it to death. I like a little chunky. You can definitely blend it longer. Now, this is a raw Salsa Verde, perfectly acceptable. You can go ahead and I have my tasting tools here, some chips. You know, give it a taste. It's missing a few things. It's missing salt. And it's missing a little acid. I'm gonna add some salt now. I'm gonna hold off on the acid. I wanna cook this, although it's actually really tasty raw and it's that simple to make. Can of tomatoes, an onion, some garlic, some cilantro, boom, in a blender, you have fresh salsa. Add a little salt, add a little lime juice. We'll get to the lime juice. I'm gonna hit this real quick again. Or if you want to cook it, this actually is also a good marinade. Or if you want to cook it, just put it into a saucepan. Did you hear? Saucepan. And we're going to just get this right on the stove. Okay.
Excuse me.
I mean, that looks delicious as it is.
Excuse me.
So, but I'm going to go ahead and put it on the stove here and just under a low flame. Now, I can hear my roasted salsa just sizzling away already. So let's give it a check. Excuse me. Nope, I need to find some And so I'm going to pull this out of the oven, and we're just going to take a look at what we have for the roasted salsa. Take a look. So we've got the scallions here, or the garlic scapes are starting to roast really nicely. Tomatillos are, look at the onions, they're starting to develop flavor. We can just flip these things over. I'm going to just kind of move some stuff around. These guys are getting nice and you can see they're starting to soften up. So I'm just going to move these things around. I don't need to take anything off yet. Maybe I turn my tomatillos over. Just like that. And then I'm going to just stick this right back into the oven under the broiler. A few minutes. This salsa right here, my red salsa, my Salsa Roja, is just gonna, we just want to cook the rawness off of it. We don't need to cook it for long. But isn't that beautiful? Can you see that? Ooh. You can see the herbs in it. And you can see here, you cannot distinguish. So here's the main difference between a salsa and a Pico De Gallo is that it's blended. You can't pick out, I mean, you can see the herbs, you can see tomato, but you can't really get the distinct shapes of each one of them, okay? There's your main difference. I'm very excited. All right. So we've got a salsa verde going. We have salsa roja practically done. And let's just talk about a pico de gallo. And one of my kind of favorite or kind of chunky salsa is I'm going to make a fruit one. And so today I am using mango and cucumber. So I have already started to, oops, turn this down a little bit. I've already started to chop up. I've got one small red onion, love the color, and I diced it up pretty small. You know, this is a great way to use your knife skills. I have one mango so far. I may add more mango. This all depends on ratio, right? So right now it's going to be very oniony, but I've got a mango going. I'm going to add in a cucumber. So I'm going to go ahead and I want to peel this cucumber down a little bit. A lot of times these standard kind of cucumbers, this peel can be a little tough. I'm going to peel that. Then I'm going to cut it in half lengthwise. And I want to take all these seeds out. Over the peeler. All right, so I'm going to use that same really sharp thin edge spoon, and I'm going to scoop the seeds out. The seeds just add moisture. They add a texture I don't really want in my salsa. They're a little unnecessary. So this is a great way to just scrape them out, okay? Can you see that? So, and I'm going to start with 1/2 of a cucumber. And again, I want things to be all about sort of uniform size. So I'm going to cut some long strips here. Pay attention to where my fingers are at. And then I'm just going to try and dice these up nice and small. You could use a food processor if that's easier for you. I also teach a knife skills class. I have one coming up on Sunday, so space is available, and we do make a salsa in there. It's a great way to practice your knife skills. So what's nice is I'm not cooking this, so I don't have to worry. So I'm going to put that in my bowl. Now this, to me, it's a mango cucumber salsa, so I need more mango. Look how pretty that is already. I have a second mango. We were in luck today. You don't often find mangoes that are ripe. So you want them to be really squishy like this. And then you find them, find where, see they are oblong, and you actually want to cut down from just right off the center, and off down the oblong side. So not right in the middle, but right off center, okay, is the best way. Or if somebody else knows a better way. And then this is like chef's bites. There's a little bit of flesh left on there, but it's a weird flat seed that you can't get at. And then I like to, and I don't hold it in my hand, I keep it on the cutting board, but I use the tip of my knife, and I'm just cutting through. And I'm just going to make a grid here, but I'm not holding it in my hand like this, because if the tip of the knife goes through, I'm going to cut my hand. So, and then I'm just going to grid this. You can see how ripe this is, and then you can turn it inside out. Ta-da! And now I just sort of shave it off. Nope, I can smell my salsa verde. I'm gonna have to stop here in a second. I smell some char happening. I love char. Char is good. Some people think it's burnt, but it's not. It's good. All right. So I want to get all that mango off. I'm gonna pause really quickly and let's pull out the Salsa Verde. So we got my Salsa Roja. Look, it's just cooked the rawness off of it. This is done. This is ready for anything you want to use a salsa for. Let's grab the Salsa Verde pieces. Oh yeah. This is beautiful. Look at all of that. All right, we're gonna let this cool for just a minute. This is not burnt. Well, this one might be, but the rest of this is good char. And that's gonna be great roasted flavor. So I'm gonna turn my broiler off and we're gonna finish this off in a minute. All right, let me dice up the other half of this mango. So again, we kind of have like your main ingredients of your salsa or your pico de gallo. So sort of the star of the show, whether it's tomato, whether it's tomatillos. Here it's mango and cucumber. I love doing pineapple and cucumber. I love doing rhubarb and cucumber. That's actually my absolute favorite one. We didn't have any rhubarb here at the store, but I have rhubarb at home. I make that all summer long. I eat it on chips, I put it on chicken, I put it on fish, and it's just beautiful. So this is a nice way to add some citrus, if you can eat it. So I'm gonna add this to my bowl. Ready. Now we need a few finishing touches for this is a Pico de Gallo format, because we can see the distinguishing shapes. We can, we're not blending it. So I want to add some, I'm going to add some cilantro. I like cilantro. Not everybody does. For some people, it does taste like soap. There's a genetic, there's a gene that makes that happen. Other people just don't like it. If you don't like it, I still recommend putting in some fresh herbs. So you could also always use, and I have some here, I like flat leaf Italian parsley. That's a possibility. I'll pull a little bit of that. This is some beautiful local parsley. And again, I'm just gonna chop it up really nice and fine. I'm gonna take out some of the big stalks. They're edible, but they become a little bit too much on our teeth. So this is going to add some parsley flavor. Just a little wet, so it doesn't like to chop up quite as much. I just washed it. So I'm going to add that, but I also want the pepperiness of the cilantro. So I'm just going to try and pull the leaves off for this one. Again, the stems are edible, but they don't, they can be a little bit much. I'm not doing too much here. Okay, so I've got my cilantro all chopped up, and I'm going to throw that in my bowl. Okay, now I need to add some salt. So again, we salt by hand, and I'm just going to take a nice pinch of it. We're going to just add it right on in, and then I'll taste for seasoning in a little bit. You could add some pepper if you wanted to, but the other thing that you really need is some acid. So lime is the most typical. You can use, if you wanted to, you could use lemon or whatever. I want to, in this beautiful Pico de Gallo, I want to use some lemon zest as well. It has the oils of the lemon in it. So I'm going to make sure to wash this. I always encourage people to really think about using the zest because it's product that you've paid for, right? We often bypass the zest zest and just go for the juice on the inside. But really, there's a lot of flavor in that zest, and it's part of the product, right? And you're just throwing away good flavor into the trash or hopefully into your compost. So I'm just going to zest this lime. It's going to give me a real pow. I like to add a lot of acid to things. Salsas are palate cleansers. They're meant to be refreshing. Okay, so I added the zest. Oh, I know what I forgot. I forgot the spice. I'm gonna cut this in half. I have a little squeezer here. It actually goes in this way. And I'm gonna start with 1/2. Right there. And then before I go any further, before I taste for seasoning, I need to add in, I have a jalapeno. I love jalapeno. I love the flavor of it. And because I'm going to be eating the salsa, you could do the same thing. You can cut out the seeds and the stem. I'm going to leave it all in there. And I'm going to chop this up nice and fine. So I'm going to start with a rough chop like this, but I'm going to mince up this jalapeno and those seeds. So this should give me some good heat throughout my salsa. If you don't want the heat, take out the center, but add jalapeno. It is such a beautiful flavor. And in fact, you'll find that you probably won't even notice it. You may have to end up adding 2 if you just use the flesh. Heat is actually really good for you. It does 2 things. It actually cools you down in the summer, and the acid and the salt in the salsa help to balance it out. It also helps circulation, so it gets your blood moving, and it can be antiviral. There's health in food. The more colors you have, the more fresh it is. So, all right, I have. There we go. Is that now? There we go. All right. I've got my jalapeno. I've got it all minced up. I'm going to throw it all in there. And now we're just going to mix this up with a nice spoon. Still have a lot of red onion. It's okay. I could add a little bit more cucumber to this if I wanted. But I think that looks beautiful. Wouldn't that be fun to take to a neighborhood picnic or something? Or just and I'm going to take a nice big old bite of this. And I'm testing to see if I need more acid, more salt. What else does it need? It's so good. So I'm gonna let this be. You can also let it sit for a good 20 minutes, half hour. Those flavors will still start to develop, and then you can test it then. If you find that your salsa is too sour, like too tart, especially when I use rhubarb, one way to sweeten it up is to use either some agave syrup. So think agave syrup comes from the agave plant. So it's really kind of very close to cultures that use a lot of salsa, or some honey, okay? So I'm gonna let that one go, and we're gonna finish up with this Salsa Verde. So I have another blender here. And in this blender, I'm gonna put everything that's on this, this baking sheet. So I'm just gonna tip up. So I'm gonna I've got my blender, and I'm going to I wanna get it all in there. So I'm gonna get those garlic scapes. Oops, I don't want these garlic cloves. They've got skin on them, but the garlic scapes can go in there nice and full. I'm gonna get my tomatillos. My baking sheet is actually cooled down quite enough. I'm gonna scrape all that oil, all that salt, all that juice, if I make it into the blender and not make it into a mess. Everything off this baking sheet. Okay, all in my blender. Now, again, I already know that I'm gonna need some cilantro, so I'm just gonna rip off some more. This is a salsa verde, I want it green. I'm gonna add a lot. And I know I'm gonna want some acid, so I'm gonna go ahead and just add that in. I never did add acid to my Salsa Roja. Tomatoes are an acidic fruit, so you may not need extra lime juice in your Salsa Rojas. You'll need it here. And I'm going to go ahead and add in a good pinch of salt. Not too much. You can always add more, but you can't take it out. And then let's get this on our blender. So we'll just here. Loud noise coming. Here we go. Woo. You can see I had to shake that one a lot. So this is fairly thick, but now we're going to taste it. I'm going to grab a spoon this time. I've got just nice thick. I can smell the char. Char gives it a good, again, char brings in that bitter notes, and bitter is really good. Think coffee. So I like that as it is. You know, some people might want to add in, if it's too bitter, add in a little honey. You know, you can balance things out. Play around with it. I love that there's a little bit of char taste to it. This is really good. I will actually take this salsa. I will mix it with some roasted chicken and kale and then cook it a little bit more. And it's a beautiful taco filling. Yes, chicken and kale. So we have made, in the span of 40 minutes or so, 3 different kinds. I have like let me just display here. Large bowl. 3 different kinds. Now let me grab a display bowl. We have our mango cucumber Pico De Gallo. I have a Salsa Verde that has been roasted. So this is a roasted Salsa Verde. Remember, because we roasted it under the broiler. You could do that you could also do it on the grill. Throw in some bell peppers, throw in some squash. I mean, there's no exact rules. Play around with it. That's the fun part. Especially right now in summer when there's a ton of vegetables that are coming in. And let me grab one more dish. And we have a Salsa Roja. So I'm going to get my camera here so we can all see. And I've got my beautiful Salsa Roja. There we go. I think the only thing I started with, if you're interested in how much things cost, this is still a little warm. I had the red onion, and after that I purchased everything, and it was about $16. So there's a lot of food here, and a lot of different salsas. It's really easy to make a salsa bar and then do some street tacos, or heck, you could just put this on anything. So hopefully you got some ideas. Hopefully you have a little bit of an idea of how easy and quick it is to make salsas and pico de gallos, and you start to play and make your own. For those that are here with me in person, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording and we can chat if you have any questions. For those that are joining us on demand or on CATV, thank you so much for tuning in. We do have classes here at the co-op. The schedule's on the co-op website, which is coopfoodstore.coop. So coopfoodstore.coop. And you can look under the event schedule and see our classes, and the fall class schedule will be coming out in a few weeks. Thanks so much.